Welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm your host, and today we are getting our hands dirty with the absolute raw machinery of Web3. We're diving into ERC-1155 minting mechanics, which is a massive piece of the advanced token management and minting strategies track. If you've ever wondered how digital assets literally pop into existence out of thin air, without completely breaking the blockchain, well, you are in exactly the right place. Now, just to jog your memory, in our previous explainer, debugging and validating optimizations, we made absolutely sure our tokens wouldn't get trapped in smart contracts that can't actually handle them. But today, we're flipping the script entirely. Instead of tracking tokens after they're out in the wild, we are tracing them from the exact, literal microsecond they are manufactured. All right, here is our engineering schematic for today. First, the minting blueprint. Then, the warehouse mental model. Third, single versus batch minting. Fourth, metadata and supply tracking. And finally, a real-world game economy. Let's jump straight into Section 1, the minting blueprint. Our starting point is a core concept that boils down to a single line of Solidity code. It's a nested mapping called underscore balances. Now, if you're new to this idea, just think of a mapping as a giant dictionary. This specific one maps a token ID to a user's wallet address, which then maps to a quantity. So, for example, token ID 1, owned by Alice, has a balance of 50. This compact little snippet is literally the master ledger. It tracks exactly who owns how much of every single item, all inside one unified contract. Whenever you mint a token, this right here is the exact piece of state getting updated. Moving right along to Section 2, the warehouse mental model. I find it really helps to think of our blockchain contract as a massive Amazon-style warehouse. In this scenario, a token ID is simply a SKU, a unique product line. And a user's wallet address, well, that's just a physical storage shelf inside that warehouse. So that underscore balances mapping we just broke down, that's the warehouse's master clipboard. Minting a new token is really just manufacturing a brand new SKU, tossing it onto a specific shelf, and then updating the clipboard. It's that simple. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, single versus batch minting. The absolutely crucial thing here is understanding the exact chronological steps of a single mint. It's basically an assembly line. Let's walk through it together. First step, we validate that we aren't sending items to a zero address. We definitely don't want to throw our newly manufactured products into a black hole. Second, we update that underscore balances cell we just talked about, which increases the user's inventory. Third, we emit a TransferSingle event from address 0. Now, why address 0? Well, to external indexers and block explorers, seeing a transfer originate from the 0 address is like the universal shipping manifest. It mathematically proves a brand new item was created out of thin air, rather than just moved from someone else. Fourth, we trigger post-write hooks for any extra custom logic you might want. And finally, the acceptance check, calling on ERC-1155 received to make sure the receiving smart contract actually knows how to safely hold these specific tokens. Now, Mint is great for manufacturing a single SKU, but what about Mint Batch? Oof, that is like loading a massive, full pallet of mixed SKUs and moving them all at the exact same time. It saves a ton of network gas compared to doing them one by one. But a quick warning here. You pass in an array of token IDs and a matching array of amounts. If those two arrays aren't the exact same length, well, congratulations, you've just dropped the pallet all over the warehouse floor. Your transaction reverts. So always double check your array length. All right, Section 4, metadata and supply tracking. First up is URI substitution. The shift ID placeholder in brackets acts as a dynamic barcode. Instead of hard-coding a custom URL for every single token, you just use this shift ID tag, and front-ends automatically swap in the actual token ID to fetch the off-chain JSON data. It's incredibly efficient. Also, we need to talk about the optional ERC-1155 supply extension. ERC-1155 actually doesn't track total global supply by default. It just tracks individual user balances. If you want a master counter of all the tokens ever minted across the entire network, you have to add this extension. But keep in mind, it's going to cost you extra gas every single time you mint. So you really only want to use it if your mechanics absolutely requires strict supply guarantees. And finally, Section 5, real-world game economy. Let's break down how massive this flexibility really is in practice. In a single game inventory, you could have a fungible potion. It's just a bulk consumable with a massive supply of 10,000. But right alongside it, you could have unique swords. By using a large ID number space, say starting at 1,000,001, we create a built-in serial number for a non-fungible, one-of-a-kind asset. Each sword has a strict supply of exactly one. And the best part, they all use the exact same ID barcode system we just discussed. It's literally one smart contract seamlessly handling bulk health potions and legendary serialized swords. The whole shebang. It saves an incredible amount of gas and deployment headache. So, before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with 3 absolutely crucial engineering principles to keep your contracts secure. First, core invariants. Things like access control and balance checks. They must always precede your state rights. Never, ever update a balance before checking if the user is actually allowed to mint. Second, use those underscore before and underscore after token transfer hooks for composable upgrade logic. Don't cram bespoke rules directly into the core mint function. And third, lock in your metadata and supply strategies right up front. Deciding to add a global supply counter after you've already minted 10,000 tokens into the wild? Yeah, that's an absolute nightmare that you definitely want to avoid. Which leaves us with one final kind of provocative question. How are you going to engineer the inventory for your next Web3 economy? Are you going to use high supply consumables, uniquely serialized assets, or maybe a massive hybrid of both? The warehouse is entirely yours to design. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. If you want to dive deeper into smart contract architecture and really master these tools, be sure to head over to forge.college to continue exploring all the incredible Web3 learning available there. Keep building, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.